Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we're talking about the Florida Panthers, one of the teams of 6 that are going to be going on and playing in the quest for the greatest trophy, the grandest prize in all of sports, and that is, of course, Lord Stanley's Cup, not a little tiny stupid thermos that some freaking blonde girls are carrying around. No, the great trophy of the Stanley Cup, and the Panthers are playing for it this year. And last season, you can blame it on whatever you want. You can blame it on luck. You could blame it on skill. You can blame it on you could ask if they deserve it. You can blame if it was just good timing. Whatever you want to say, the Florida Panthers last year run to the Stanley Cup Finals was something to watch. It was so amazing to watch. The first round against the Boston Bruins, every game, it's not like when the Bruins were up 3-1, that those games that the Panthers lost, they were just like pushovers out of nowhere, they just lit up and they were like, we're going to win now. That's not what happened. Each game was maybe not always a close contest, but Florida always showed like glimmerings that they could win the thing. And then they win on 3 in a row, win that round against the Bruins. Next round against the Maple Leafs, Leafs didn't stand a chance. Then up against in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Hurricanes, the Canes were the better team. They really were. They outshot them, they outskated them, they outplayed them. But this team, with that pinch of Bobrovsky luck and that little glimmer of Matthew Tkachuk's amazing play and being like the perfect playoff hockey player, they get past them. Just a couple of games they need. Those 4 wins that all they needed to get past the Hurricanes, and they did it 4 in a row. And then they go on, and then they get smacked by the Vegas Golden Knights, but every single team did because Vegas was just absolutely insane last season, and no one stood a chance. But this year, going into it, I think this is a team where I see Spit and Chicklets saying that the Rangers are a team of destiny. No. That's ridiculous. The Florida Panthers, in my opinion, have a date with destiny, and that destiny is what I'm calling the Stanley Cup, because I really do think the Florida Panthers have one of the greatest chances, I would say top 3 chances in my opinion, for winning the Stanley Cup. So let me just give you an idea of what this team is going to be bringing into the playoffs. For one, Sam Reinhart, 55 goals this season, 92 points right now. The guy is absolutely on fire, just keeps scoring goals. Reinhart, and he's also not just like a pushover guy, right? He can play both ways. Reinhart is a solid player. Vladimir Tarasenko brought onto this team 13 points, 18 games played for them so far. Not almost really a point per game, but 13 points out of 18 games ain't bad. Last year when he was traded to the New York Rangers, he was one of the better contributors in the Rangers' very poor playoff run. But he was one of the core with Patrick Kane being pretty solid on that team in the playoffs last year. Then Carter Verhaeghe, another guy on this team that is just like such a good fighter, right? He goes out there, he's got all the energy in the world, he's go, 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 go. Forgot to put him on the list, but Sam Bennett, another like just tough guy just good two-way center, who can be in the dirty areas in front of the net and jam up other guys along the walls, gets a couple goals, bats in like two a series, type of guy that you need on your team. And then that's before I even talk about guys, I don't know, like Alexander Barkov, one of the best all-around players in the NHL, who is just so dazzling, and this year just shows every once in a while just how incredible he can be when producing, and also just how good he is on the back end of things too. And he can log heavy minutes along with Matthew Tkachuk. I know this hasn't been his most glorious of seasons when it comes to points, but this was his setback year in points. But he's been on fire as of late. He's looked solid the second half of the season, and you damn well know that whether he is a Braden Point kind of guy, where even if his regular season isn't like top, not like Tkachuk has had the worst season in the world when it comes to points, but he's not like last season he was like 114 points, something like that. He was like 3rd in the NHL, and I'm sure I'm horribly wrong, but you know what I'm saying. Tkachuk this season, he's the guy that is going to be putting every inch of sweat, blood, and tears to win the Stanley Cup. He is going out there. He's bulldogging some guys, crashing the net, getting those dirty overtime goals, and that is who he is. He is a playoff performer. And then the depth goes to Lundell, Luosterainen. You get to Rodriguez. You get the Nick Cousins down the lineup, right? This team is big. This team is hard-hitting. This team is grindy as hell. Like, these guys are fighters with Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, Bennett, Rodriguez even. This team, to me, like, guys with Rodriguez, like reloading the lineup, the development of Lundell and Luosterainen, Tkachuk's, like, need to come back in the playoffs and not redeem himself, but keep the train rolling. Offensively, just they're so loaded up front and down the lineup all the way to the fourth line. Love it. Defense. Gustav Forsling, underrated defenseman in the NHL, leads this team in points on a team with some very stellar defensemen. You get Aaron Ekblad, who will return for Game 1 of the season, of the series. Oliver Ekman-Larsson has a resurgent season this year as a very solid second liner. Brandon Montour is on this team, a hell of a defenseman. And guys like Mikkola are also on this team. And like guys like Josh Mahura as well. Like, defensively, like, sure, maybe on paper you look at them and you're like, it's not like the best defensive team. They're not like ultra defensive, say like a team like the Predators, or like they might not be going in as like the defensive team of the past of like the Islanders, how they've always been known for being like the defensive team. They might not be like the onslaught kind of team like the Avalanche are with their offensive Makar and Taves and Girard and Byram in the past. Like, it might not be just like overwhelming lines of like onslaught offense from behind. But it's just a very good blend of both. Forsling can get points. Ekblad, OEL, Montour especially. These guys all can play solid defensive games while also adding on to the scoreboard. And guys like Kulikov especially, like, just solid. And Mikkola and Kulikov, Ekblad more like defensive guys. And then with Montour, OEL, Forsling putting points up on the board, logging heavy minutes. These guys can play. They've been there last season. The last couple years they've been in the playoffs. It feels like this is the year where those guys really settle down and play some solid games. And guys like Montour really show up. Guys like OEL having that opportunity to be in the playoffs for the first time in forever. And then we get to the stat area, the part of the team that did so much for them last playoffs, and that is goaltending. Alexander Sergei Bobrovsky. Bob, last year, in the playoffs, some of the unrealest goaltending we have ever seen, ever. And it carried into this season, being a potential Vezina, I would say a Vezina candidate. Bobrovsky has been unreal this season, and I feel like he is in it for it this season as well. And if for some reason Bobrovsky goes down, if Bobrovsky just doesn't have it in him, Anthony Stolarz has been a solid goaltender in the backup position for them this season. And then if, say, both of them go down, they get Spencer Knight in the AHL. This team has it covered in all aspects. They have all the pieces to the puzzle. They have the experience, they have the fight, they have the grind, they have the top-end stars who can put points on the board. They've got the depth to keep the pressure going. They've got the grittiness that has shown that a team needs. They have the actual, like, just, like, believability that they can do it. Like, some teams you think of, like, Vancouver, are like, I don't know. But everything is going for them this season. I love their odds, and let's see how they stack up against some teams. So in the first round, a lot of things can change. The Bruins and them have one game left. It's a 1 point difference. Anything can happen. But I just put both the teams that they could play on the board here. For Tampa Bay or the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think either one, it is a win for the Florida Panthers, especially the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have done nothing to change what I think in them, and especially since playoffs become such a tighter matchup, and just last year what we saw with Toronto, I just don't think they've done anything to prove me, and just to even sway me into maybe thinking it's a good series. I think the furthest a matchup between Florida and Toronto goes is 4-2. I don't think it goes anywhere past that. To me, it's a 5-game series or even a sweep. Tampa Bay, being it's a rivalry, and Tampa just feels like this is like maybe like the second to last hoorah for them. Maybe it could be a tight series and it goes to Game 7. But just because this team, this is no longer the team of, like, Huberdeau, right? This is Tkachuk in that position of being, like, the main, like, producer. and Reinhardt, like everything overwhelms the Lightning, and they're just, especially their top guys being like Kucherov, being more of like power play snobs. I just don't think that'll play that big of a position in the playoffs, and they bounce them out of the first round. Second round, the Boston Bruins, I would most likely say they play up against. I think last year the Bruins lose. This year they're not a better team, and the Panthers have either gotten better or the same. They get bounced again. I think this would be such a fun series to watch, and if we can get Florida versus Toronto, and then Florida versus the Bruins in the first two rounds, and the Bruins play the Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, please, like I'm getting wet over this already. So for me, I'm already loving this series, and I want to see that happen. But I think the Cats win those rounds. I really do believe that the Cats win. I think they are the Atlantic Division's Eastern Conference finalists, at least, at bare minimum. When you run into a team like the Rangers or the Hurricanes is where I worry. Because the Canes with Gensel, like, that could be the solution to their issues, and especially since the Hurricanes, I do think, were the better team against the Florida Panthers last year in the playoffs, but they still lost. I just don't know if Gensel is the solution, and to me, the Cats are even better than they were last year, that I feel like they beat them. The Rangers are where I'm iffy. Because the Rangers, even like 2 years ago, the Rangers get to the Eastern Conference Finals, lose to Tampa Bay, but looked like they brought it to Game 7. They looked like they could have knocked them out, could have gone on, maybe beat the Avalanche, right? Then last year, they looked like a bunch of fools and lose against the Devils. So really it just depends on if the New York Rangers are fugazi or not. And so it really depends, and I can't really wrap my head around it. If the Rangers are for real, I think the Cats might meet their match by the Rangers. But if they aren't, and there's just a little bit of shakiness in the Rangers squad, and like guys like Panarin can't produce, and guys like Tkachuk just knock him down, I think the grittiness is there for the Panthers more, and I feel like it would be a fun series to watch, and I don't know who gets past that one. But let's say it's the Cats. They get to the finals against a team like the Vegas Golden Knights, the Dallas Stars, or the Edmonton Oilers, or I don't really think the Avalanche at this point. I think they're going to get bounced. But whoever they find in the finals, if the Cats make it there, I feel like it's their season to win. Because even a team like the Rangers, where if they get in the finals, I'm like, I don't know, the Dallas Stars with like Ottinger could really knock him down. But to me, it's like if the Florida Panthers get their back-to-back seasons with a team with guys like Tkachuk and Sam Bennett and Barkov, it isn't the type of thing where I'm like, things could give out, right? The foundations could get knocked out underneath them. I think 2 times would be a charm for the Florida Panthers. I don't think they're a team that would get bounced around and thrown out by a team like Dallas. I think Dallas would be a very fun and back-to-back matchup in Vegas too. But I think if it's Florida versus Vegas again, Florida beats them. I just don't think Vegas has it in them 2 years in a row to knock out that team. So yeah, so to me, Florida, I love their odds. They're one of my top 3 teams when it comes to actual thoughts on winning the Stanley Cup. And for me, when my predictions comes out, don't be surprised when they get too far. I mean, when they get pretty far in the playoffs, because Florida, they have the believability, they have the offensive top stars, the depth to play. They've got good defense, they've got goaltenders who can just keep going in if one of them goes down, and some guys who've really shown that they can be the goaltender to carry a team and all their load, especially in Bobrovsky. This team has it all. They have the defense that can play solid defense, but also produce on the offensive things. This feels like the year where Florida wins the Stanley Cup, and guys like Gustav Forsling finally get some more credit, and people really acknowledge him. Guys like Brandon Montour, same thing. So for me, Florida, hands down, one of my top picks, and I really like their odds. So for me, that's all I got to say. So please, if you've made it this far, I'm begging you, please subscribe. Just subscribe, please. I'm begging you. Please. And until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.